Well, hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to Sci-Finatics. Well, today we're talking about the season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, entitled Old Friends, New Planets. This was a really cool season finale of Lower Decks. We got some cameos, obviously, by Robert Duncan McNeil as Nick Lacano. We got Wesley Crusher. Will Wheaton was back for that. And even the actress who played Sito in the original First Duty episode, as well as the Lower Decks episode, was back to reprise their roles for this episode in some flashback sequences. There was a bit of action, bit of excitement, a bit of adventure, bit of humour. It kind of had a bit of everything, this episode. I really enjoyed it. So we're going to go through this episode, the season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, and have a bit of a chat about it, talk about all those references that were in there from past episodes, stuff I might have missed from last week's episode as well. We'll go through that as well. So we'll be talking about a bit of everything in this review today. So first off the bat, we get the flashback to Starfleet Academy 13 years ago, which flashes back to the time of the Next Generation episode, The First Duty, which is obviously that episode which first featured Nick Lacano in it. Nova Squadron, they're doing the Culvert Starburst maneuver, and Josh got killed in the exercise, and there was a bit of a cover up and everything. And this kind of shows like maybe a day before or a couple of days before this incident happened. So we get Wesley Crusher, we get Nick Lacano, we get Josh Albert before he died in the accident, Ensign Sito and other members of Nova Squadron as well. And even Boothby's there doing a bit of gardening. And we get Mariner in this scene as well. She's in there. Now, it doesn't seem like she's necessarily in the same class as Lacano and Crusher and co. It seems like they might be ahead of Mariner at the Academy, but it seems like they're all at Starfleet Academy at the same time. So whether Mariner is like a first year student at the Academy and Lacano and Crusher and co are kind of final year students, but it seems they're kind of friendly. Mariner's kind of tagging along with Nova Squadron like a bit of a puppy dog kind of thing. So it was kind of cool to see that connection there. And obviously we know that Sito and Mariner were very good friends at the Academy, maybe despite being separated in their studies or whatever. And that obviously links then to the flashback we got in last week's episode to Mariner lamenting the death of Sito, which we saw in that Lower Decks episode of Next Generation, where she got killed doing a secret mission into Cardassian space and everything. And it's quite nice that we got Lower Decks history embedded back into Next Generation episodes that kind of give us, oh, okay, this is interesting now. We can now see, well, this is when Mariner was at Starfleet Academy. She was there when Crusher was there during this episode incident and everything. So that kind of, the way that all connected up was really cool, I thought. And obviously there's been a bit of chatter about that in the comment section of last week, so I appreciate you guys filling in some of the gaps there, which was good. The fact that rounded out the history of some of our characters in Lower Decks and connected that to Next Generation, I thought was pretty cool. We flashed them back to present day. Nick Lacano on his jacket there and on all the hulls of all of the ships that he's acquired throughout the course of the season has got the Nova Squadron logo on it in the form of the Culvert Starburst maneuver in this episode. So that's kind of a nice little link back to that episode where he's using the Culvert Starburst pattern as his logo for Nova Fleet. I kind of like the little reference when Mariner's talking to Lacano about the interior of the ship. It's sort of almost a comparison to Starfleet ships of the TNG era to what Starfleet ships are kind of going to be more like when we get to sort of more the Star Trek Picard era of Starfleet ships, which is no wood paneling, no carpets. So they're kind of referencing that, you know, that in a kind of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek way, I thought. The fact that, yes, all starships back in this era had bloody carpets on the floor. Once we get through to, the Star Trek Picard era, it just seems like, polished, shiny floors is the go and carpets are no more.
I realize what I've missed most, the carpet.
So this little reference I thought was kind of a cool little dig at that. Probably one of my most favourite parts of this episode is the bit when Rutherford and Boyler are having a debate on the bridge of the Cerritos about Lacano. Rutherford saying, you know, he looks just like Tom Paris, and Boimler saying, what do you mean? I just can't see it. He's got the same face, It's like, I was kind of wondering last week when we were talking about it in my review as to how they would kind of tackle this, because it's same actor. How are they going to approach this topic? And I'm kind of glad they didn't just ignore it completely. I'm glad they did that little bit of banter between Boimler and Rutherford, debating as to, this guy looks just like Tom Paris. What are you kidding me? And Boimler's going, really? What? I don't see it. Really? So that was a lot of fun. And I did laugh out loud during that moment. It looks like that Lacano is keeping everybody in check by using the Fangi Genesis device that was established a few episodes back when the Ferengi got captured as part of the Lacano acquiring ships with the Nova 1. And it seems like Marin not on board with Lacano's mutinous behaviour. She takes the Fangi Genesis device and hightails it out of there in a stolen Steamrunner class ship. All the episodes of the season are kind of coming into play in this finale, which I think is fantastic. We obviously get back to Orion, where Tandy has to ask a bit of a favour of her sister, to Erica. Can you please lend us a very large Orion ship that we can use to punch through a very powerful shield? And they obviously oblige. It's cool to see Ariel Winter back again as Tandy's sister to Erica in this episode as well. I love the fact that all these little hints that have been dropped and little character cameos and everything that have appeared throughout the course of the season have come back into play in this final episode. I think that was a good continuity to sort of string all of our season episodes together. But the only way they can acquire this ship from the Orion is to have a combat duel against one of their larger Orion female warriors, and everybody kind of thinks that, maybe Shax is going to go up against her, or maybe Ransom perhaps. But no, Tendi chooses Dr. Miglimo to be the champion in this fight, because she knows something that everybody else doesn't know, which is the fact that the Orion champion that they're battling against has a very severe case of allergies when it comes to bird feathers. So all Miglimo has to do is puff up his feathers, and he pretty much, takes her down in one foul swoop. Foul spelt F-O-W-L. Tendi puts herself on the line. So give us your ship, and I'll come back to Orion and be mistress of the winter constellations beside you, which is obviously what her sister has been angling for quite some time. The quality of the ship and the state that it's in is another matter entirely, and it doesn't appear to be particularly operational. We get a cool chase sequence through some kind of crystal planetary rings between the Ferengi ship and Mariner in the Steamrunner class ship, which is all very exciting, doing a little bit of cat and mouse stuff. We had a bit of cat and mouse, a bit of submarine warfare type action back in Picard Season 3, which was very cool. And they've kind of taken that again in this episode, where we get the starships kind of creeping around, hidden behind various different crystalline structures. We're in the Ferengi trying to catch up with Mariner, and Mariner hiding and all that sort of thing. It's a pretty cool staple of Star Trek, and good to see it used again here. In another appearance from a previous episode, we get a bit more Nemesis bantery sort of stuff going on between Rutherford and Livik. In this episode. So that seems to have been smoothed over a little bit, though, because we get Rutherford and Livik doing the whole Samuel Twain holodeck episode, as we saw earlier this season, and they seem to be getting along okay if they're partaking in some Samuel Clements, ego puffing up kind of banter. We get the Romulans entering into the attack there in the Nebula against Mariner in her Steamrunner class. Again, some pretty cool action sequences in this episode, some pretty good space combat. I think this episode definitely had a really good mix of comedy and, bit of past references to episodes and a bit of action and everything as well. We find out that Boimler is now put in the captain's chair. He's doing some captaincy in this episode. He's in charge of the Cerritos while they use the tractor beam to tow the giant Orion ship as a virtual battering ram to punch through the shield that Nova Fleet has put up, which is just enough to get a small ship through the crack in the shield in the form of the Cerritos captain's yacht, which is a good use of such a vessel. I love the fact that they actually say in this episode, oh, they're using the captain's yacht. We don't see that used very often or whatever, if at all, ever, because pretty much every single Starfleet vessel from the Enterprise D to Voyager had obvious captain's yachts in the lower side, in the center, lower side of the saucer section, but pretty much never got used. They rarely got used, apart from, I think, in maybe Insurrection, I think they used the captain's yacht in that, but certainly never in any episodes did ever a captain's yacht get used in any Star Trek TV series. So I love the fact that they kind of used the captain's yacht and also referenced the fact that captain's yachts never get taken out. It always ends up being shuttlecraft or whatever, but never the captain's yacht, which I guess is kind of a bit more of a runabout style vessel rather than a shuttlecraft, which kind of, if you've got a ship like that on board your starship, hey, why not, use it more often. Mariner manages to activate the Fangi Genesis device. We've got a bit of a showdown between Mariner and Lacano. It looks like Mariner's about to get phasered, but she gets beamed off right at the last second. And it appears that Lacano gets wiped out by the exploding Genesis device, which subsequently forms a planet in the area of space that they're in, which they obviously go on to name Planet Lacano. Whether Nick Lacano is dead from the Genesis explosion, or whether he ends up, on the planet's surface as a child or something like what happened to Spock in Star Trek 3 Search for Spock after the Genesis device activated there. Who knows? I mean, it's lower decks and it's Star Trek, so anything goes really. We could end up seeing him again, or that could be the end. I love the fact that when Lacano tried to deactivate the bomb, the deactivation code or whatever was behind a Ferengi paywall, so he had to enter a bar of latinum or whatever to deactivate it, which he obviously didn't have on hand, and that was, bad luck for him. Freeman was reprimanded by Starfleet, but it doesn't look like there's any major repercussions based on that. Everything resulted in a fairly positive sense. Mariner's back, and obviously the rivalry between Livik and Rutherford lives on, despite them having a bit of a truce from the Mark Twain holodeck programs. Sokal, who's Talin's former commanding officer on board the Vulcan ship, seems to maybe want her to come back to the Vulcan fleet, but Talin declines the phone call, and she wants to stay on board the Cerritos for a bit longer because she's having a good time, it would seem. And the episode concludes with Tendi fulfilling her duties to her sister and Orion, as she agreed to return to Orion as a payback for them giving them that giant ship. It'll be interesting to see how long she lasts on Orion before coming back to the Cerritos. And that question will no doubt be answered in Season 5 of Star Trek Lower Decks. I think this was a great season finale of Lower Decks. It had a bit of everything. We had some flashbacks going on with the cadets of Nova Squadron back from the first duty episode. We had a lot of cool action, a bit of cat and mouse stuff, a bit of fighting in the nebula between Ferengis and Romulans, and some really funny comedic lines as well, with references to the likeness between Tom Paris and Nick Lacano, which was great as well. So this episode, I thought, kind of had a bit of everything. It was a pretty well-rounded episode with the ticked the boxes on all fronts, I think. So I think it was a fantastic season finale. But let me know what you guys think. Leave a thought in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of the season finale of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, which was entitled Old Friends and New Planets. We've got no more Lower Decks, and there might be a little bit of a gap between our next series, which is probably going to be Star Trek Discovery, the final season of that, Season 5, early in the new year. But I'm sure there'll be Star Trek news to talk about in the meantime, but I'll be on top of that as soon as it hits. Guys, as always, if you haven't subscribed to Sci-Finatics yet, please don't be shy to do so. Really helps the channel out. I always try to stay pretty up-to-date and current with all the news that's going on in the world of Star Trek and other sci-fi TV. So yeah, be sure to click on that subscribe button And also click on the link in the description for my merch store. Plenty of cool Star Trek themed t-shirts and hoodies and mugs and caps and stickers and everything there, all at very reasonable prices. Pick yourself up a bargain and help support the channel at the same time. I'll be back soon with my next video. I'll see you guys soon.